So have you ever had that problem when you are talking to someone about something, maybe you're upset or maybe there's just something important that you want to share, and your partner kind of like vagues out, or they jump into trying to fix it or solve it, or they just kind of drift off, like it doesn't seem to engage them very well. So I have, and I also know that I've been guilty of it when my partner's talking to me. They say, "Hey, you're not listening to me," and so it's a really common issue that I also see a lot when I'm working with clients, because they're trying to communicate about something that's really important, and their partner's just kind of like it disconnects or jumps into trying to solve it, and so what happens is the message that you're trying to send doesn't get across the bridge. And so you have the frustration of not being heard. And then often what couples will end up doing is then fighting about the process of, you're not listening to me. You say, I'm listening to you. Oh, I did this. And so then you're not actually even resolving the issue. You're just having a fight about the process. And so I got a question from a client this morning that was basically saying, okay, you talked about this tool that you had to help us with this. I can't remember what it was. Can you please just give me a breakdown for that? And I didn't actually have a handy breakdown available for her, so I thought I will kill like 15 birds with one stone, and so I'm recording this message for you, and you know who you are. Okay, so the reason the problem that we have when we are trying to communicate, particularly if we're distressed or if something is important, so it's something that emotionally engages us, which, face it, most of the time when we're talking to our partner about stuff, a lot of the time there's emotion invested because they're important to us. So even if it's not actually a big deal, if they're not really engaged, it's going to feel bad. And if it's something that frustrates us or hurts us, then we're much more prone to sort of getting frustrated, to getting angry, and for the whole conversation to really escalate really quickly. And so for those of you who have done my course and are aware of the idea of the avoider and the pursuer, this is really important to both of you. Although in the first instance for pursuers, this is something, because you're going to tend to be more focused on the relationship, you're more likely to be kind of thinking about it or stewing about it. This is going to be something that will really make a big difference to you, to help you engage with that partner who just kind of has a tendency to sort of immediately jump to fix it, or to be kind of resistant or defensive when you're talking to them. So this is the tool. So, and I basically developed this through kind of trial and error. But I think for me, the click point was really when I started looking at the brain in the particular way that we did, and realized that our emotional brain, because it develops during that period of 2 and 8, that it is a visual and tactile brain. So if we want to get someone to care about what we are talking about, then what we need to do is we need to engage that brain. And the way that you do that is with pictures. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what those are, and I'm going to give you a bad example, and then I'm going to give you a better example. And then we'll break down the steps that are involved. So the pretty common and not so great example would be that we would say, oh hun, you're late again, and it's really frustrating because you're always late. And remember, we got to that party last week late, and then and you're just always coming home late, and you're late from work, and you're missing out on stuff with the kids, and I just feel like I can't rely on you, and it just makes me, I'm just so upset, and you need to do something about this, and I bought you that clock, and we made that calendar, and and you're just like, you're not concentrating, and as you can imagine, this conversation is going to turn to crap really quickly, okay? And so what's kind of happening is, from our partner's point of view, what we have done is we've, committed a multitude of sins. Pretty much any one of them can derail of us. But what we did is we basically flooded them with a whole series of accusation, painful images, and essentially there's a core underlying message that says you are basically a bad person. You hurt me, I'm upset with you, you're unreliable, I don't feel secure. And there's all of these examples. You always do this. Nothing that you have ever done in your life is okay. Now that may seem a little bit extreme, but what we need to understand is in terms of the emotional brain, in terms of the child brain, between those ages of 2 and 8, but think about a 4-year-old because that's kind of like the key point of that brain. 4-year-olds' brains are developed in a very particular way because their prefrontal cortex, so this area at the front of the head that gives us the ability to think past, present, future, and to sort of translocate ourselves and do those kind of things. That part of the brain is not properly developed yet. And so what this means is for a 4-year-old, the world that I'm seeing is this world that's right in front of me. And so I'm playing with my train, and the train is the only thing in my world. And when someone says, hey, do you want ice cream? Ice cream. And the train no longer exists. And now ice cream is my world, and I just want ice cream. And ice cream is the most exciting thing until, someone says, do you want to go and play in the garden? Play in the garden! And that's the thing. So there's that shift thing that happens. Okay? So when we engage someone emotionally, what we're doing is we're captivating them and we're drawing them into the story where this is everything that's kind of happening. Okay? Now, if we throw out a litany of emotional laden complaints, our brain basically explodes. Okay? Because we can't deal with all of those things immediately. But we'll try it because remember, our adult brain, the prefrontal cortex, can sort of jump. Oh, okay, I did this and did this. Always doesn't seem right. I'm pretty sure there's been some point in time. So we then flip through our Rolodex of memory to try and find the times when we weren't late or the time that you were late. And so then what we've done is we've set up a context where our partner is going to be defensive. They're going to be looking for an alternate story, and bottom line, they're not going to engage. So if we're communicating, we need them to come across the bridge from their world to come into our world, to sit with us, to emotionally hear our pain. And in order to do that, it's like if you're saying, you should come into my country and I'm going to shoot you a lot. That's not a great tourist, program, a tourist engagement program, but if we say, hey, come into my world, we've got beautiful beaches, nice cold drink, wonderful weather, all of those kind of things, that feels more appealing for most people. Or even if you're going to go somewhere that's pretty hard, we're going to say, hey, we're going to go to this country where there's just been this big tsunami, but we're going to build houses, and we're going to show you these pictures of these people who are going to live in these houses, and so that they won't be living on the street, they'll be living in this house. So you can still send a powerful and potentially challenging message, but we just send one message. We don't drown you with, 20,000 stories or 1 million stories of everyone who's suffering and in pain and lost limbs or lost loved ones and all of those kind of things. It's too much. We can't cope with that. Okay, so that's the backstory. So this is how you do it. So the alternate is basically you pick one story. Okay? And it's one story, it's one picture. And what we're basically doing is, by choosing one picture, it makes it more manageable for our brain, because most of us can deal with the point that at one point in time that we screwed up. Okay? And so this is how you do you make a picture. A picture has a location and it has a date. Okay? So it's really hard for me when you come home late. It's not a picture. Okay? Because it doesn't. It does have a location. Kind of has the idea of the house, sort of, but it doesn't have a date. We don't know when it's happening. Okay, and the same thing goes for positive. I love how you always cook such great food. It sort of has a location, but it doesn't have a date attached to it, and so it engages the wrong brain. So it'll go more into prefrontal cortex, and it's not going to have as much power. So location and a date. So babe, can I talk to you about something that I'm finding challenging? That's an invitation. It gives your partner a chance to say, okay, yeah. And then you say, hey, it was really hard for me on Friday night when you came home late. Okay, so now our partner go, oh, okay. Talking about Friday, they can kind of go back in their head to when that happened. They visualize, so now they're located. Okay, And so, and now the issue is they're located, but they're probably located in their world. Okay, so but that's fine. But at least we're talking about the same world. He's not flipping through the Rolodex, of the last week or the last month, the last 10 years kind of thing. So it's last Friday when you were late. So that's the first bit. And then what you would do is you would say, and the bit that was hard about that for me was, and again, we're going to use another picture, but it's connected. So we're going to start painting out the picture. So the framework is last Friday night. Okay, and so because you're painting a picture, your 5 senses are basically the color, the emotional color palette that you're using. So you're going to talk. So I was standing there in the kitchen, and I was looking at the time, and I saw it was about 5:05, and so I'd been organizing dinner, and I was trying to balance that in with when the kids were going to get home. And so I thought, okay, so you're going to be home at 5:30. If I put this in now, it'll be ready about 5:45, and then that'll give us time to for you to get home, get changed. We can get the kids, and so then we can be sitting down by about 10 to 6. But we'll be finished by 6:30. So then we've got enough time to get the kids ready, so we can take them out wherever they're going that evening, or whatever, or we can go out on a date. The babysitter will be there and everything will be organized. So what I'm doing is I'm absorbing you into my story. Okay, and so what we're trying to do is, hopefully from a partner's point of view, they can move out of like, you're a terrible person, you were late, and because remember, they've got a story about that as well. They were sitting at work, and then the boss comes in and says, hey, we need to do blah blah blah, or there was just that project that they need to do, and think, oh, I can just get this done, it'll only take 10 or 15 minutes or so. So they have their own stories. We want to pull them out of that story. Okay, and so then so you say, I was just sort of sitting there, and I was working this out, and I wasn't sure that you would be here on time, so I sent you that text to say, hey babe, are you going to be just checking that you'll be home on time, and you sent me back that thumbs up. Okay, so I'm like, okay, fine. So I put the casserole in the oven, or put the thing in. And so we got that stuff going. I was getting the kids ready. We set the table. We did all of those things, and so it was 5:30. And so my antenna went up, and I'm kind of waiting for you to come in. And then it was about 25 to, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's running a little bit late. Maybe it's traffic or something. And then it was 22, and I checked my phone to just see what was happening. And then it's 1:45, and I'm running around sort of getting everything ready, and I'm expecting you to walk in the door at this point in time. So you see, what we're doing is we're fleshing out the story, and we're helping our partners see what's actually happening. Okay, and so and depending on your partner's attention, interest, like if you're doing this for the first time, that may be all that you have time to do before you need to go to the next piece where you would do the story that you made up. But in this one, we're just talking about creating the picture. But if you've had a bit of training, and you might just sort of slow it down and just check that your partner's still listening, that they're still in your world. And then you might say, and so, we were sitting there, and I tried texting you, and I didn't get a reply. And about 5 to 6, I said, look, we need to eat it. Dinner's going to get cold. And then when you came in at 7:05, I was just feeling really frustrated and angry. And I think you came in and you said, hi, sorry I'm late. And I just said, yeah, it's fine, just get changed. And I know I was really kind of cold and angry towards you. And then and it kind of like it snowballed from there, and it felt like our date night was kind of crap, and we didn't kind of get to make love that night, and so all of this, what we're doing is we're creating a series of pictures so our partner can kind of come into our world and see, oh, okay, so this happened, you were telling this story. Then this happened, and you were telling that story, and this happened, and then you were telling that story, and so they can see how it makes sense for you. Okay, so basically, what happens at that point in time is so obviously there's an extension piece that runs after that in terms of owning your story and those kind of things, but I'm not going to do that in this video. But what happens is, by doing this thing, hopefully what's happening is your partner's kind of going, oh, okay, yeah, that'd be shit. Like, if I was in that position and I just kind of cooked your meal and you were waiting, and then you're like checking your phone and feeling anxious and wondering if I was in a car accident or those kind of things, and then when I kind of walked in, yeah, that'd be really hard. And so what happens is, everything that they take on board emotionally about that experience. Now remember, their brain has lots of experiences of being late, but we're just talking about one. So the really cool thing is, at some level, what they're saying is, okay, I can deal with the fact that I did this once. We also have another part of our brain that recognizes that there's a whole bunch of other experiences of being late. Everything we take on board about that experience, our brain then automatically applies to this one and this one and this one, and goes down through the list. And we have no defense against it because it's our brain. Okay, so that's a really cool thing. Okay, so we don't have to nag. All we need to do is to get even just one idea that really related to this one experience. And what our partner also knows is that we are being gracious to them, because we didn't build a case. Like, you were late on Friday, and then you were late on Tuesday, and then you were late on Sunday, and then last week I think it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the week before, and that's too much. Suddenly we go into the stage, I'm a terrible person. I shut down and go into my world, and I want to retreat. And basically, you're an enemy. You're just like throwing rocks at me. You're beating me. You're making my life horrible. I don't want to be anywhere near you. But if I can hear this one story and understand, oh my God, when I made that decision that says, I'll just do this little thing and I'll just be a little bit late, what happened for you is you went into a thought that says, I might have died, or that that you don't matter to me, or that I don't care about you. Oh, I never want you to have that feeling. I love you. This is, that experience. And so then, from your partner's point of view, they don't have to be a terrible person, because it's just one experience, and they can hold their own one experience and say, oh God, I wasn't trying to do any of that kind of stuff, but you had this experience, and so they can connect to that. And then their brain makes that link that, oh my God, this pattern I have of just saying, oh, it's fine, we'll just delay stuff, we'll just wait a bit. That's the this is not paying off well, because I inadvertently, even though I don't intend to, I'm sending this message to you, and there were like 4 in that. Maybe there's other messages and other incidents and stuff, but I don't ever want these 4 to come up again. So and so what's more likely to happen is your partner is more likely to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. Or maybe if they're not a talky person, they're like, oh, sorry. But internally, if they've got that feeling, the next time that they're in a situation that their brain sees as similar, that thing says, oh, this is hurting their partner. Okay, and they'll forget it a bunch of times, because they're not living in your world, or those kind of things, and we're a little bit slow, and so sometimes we do need to do it a bit more. But pictures are really powerful. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's probably enough for now. There's a whole series of ways that we can kind of deepen this, which I need to talk about probably in a more full context, where we're talking about some of the other stories that links to, where that might link to childhood experiences, or the ways that we make up the story. So some people might go to a story that says something like, when you're late, what it does is it triggers a feeling of being like unimportant, or that I don't matter, or that I'm not loved, or that I'm not valuable, or something like that. And so then that can be significantly more triggering. But again, you would still use a picture to say, oh, I have this picture experience, and my brain actually links it to this one. But that's a completely another video, really cool thing to get, and that can be very powerful as well. But in the first instance, my invitation is, particularly if you have a complaint, think about how you can think of it in this framework, which is, first off, make the picture. So this is the thing that happened on this date, this location. Use the five palette, the 5 senses to create the palette. I was standing here You know, I was feeling this. You know, I had this knot in my stomach, the kinesthetic scent. You know, I could hear the kids saying, "Hey, when's Dad going to get home? When's Mum going to get home?" I don't know if you can use taste, but if you can, you know, like I could feel like my mouth was really dry, and then we transitioned from that. Okay, there was this picture, and then I made these stories up from here. So what happens is, in terms of the brain flow, that becomes a safe way to say, okay, there was this experience which created these multiples of different stories here, and then I responded like this. So, you know, so we're owning, you know, I was cold, I shut down, I ignored you, I got angry when you came home, whatever those kind of things are. Okay, so I hope that was really helpful. Thank you so much for sending me that question. So I'm going to post this up on the page. So if you have a question that you really want answered, or that's kind of coming up for you, you can either post that in the page, or I'm actually really happy if you just want to message me directly, because we do want to kind of avoid that you'll be on the page, my husband did blah 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 blah, or my wife did blah 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 blah, you know, and we're not into kind of shaming or criticizing people. So feel free to send that in a message, and if it's something that I haven't done, or we haven't gotten a course or something, then I can look at doing a video like this. All right, hey, thanks for your time, and hope you have a great day. Thanks.